Time now to take a look at this morning's papers, and here with me this morning to review them are Alison Stewart-Allen, Chief Executive of International Marketing Partners, and Kevin Craig, PR and Crisis Management Expert. So a very good morning to both of you. Lovely to have you both here with me this morning. So let's get stuck in, shall we? We're looking at some of the front pages, and Alison, you've picked out the FT's front page. The main headline is about the Chancellor ruling out pre-election tax cuts, but you're actually focusing on an article a bit further down.
I am, indeed, which is really about tourism. And what's interesting is I think this officially says COVID's over. The main low-cost carriers, hotels across Europe are just flush with bookings. Think about where we were 2 years ago when no one could travel. Now, oddly, people are traveling in the middle of a cost of living crisis. And that's really the essence of this story, is how much more spending will we get out of people for their summer holidays, for even their bookings later in the year, when we have interest rates at this level, people are worried about their mortgages and food prices. So on the one hand, it looks like a fantastic story that, everybody's happy to go on holiday and all of the operators are flush with cash, but how long will it last? And that's really at the heart of this, is it's a very uncertain time. And while you want to count on these bookings and the revenue, you actually can't count on it. It's just so uncertain.
Does it say if most of the people doing the bookings are Brits or foreigners?
Well, this is mostly about the British going abroad. Oh. So that's also quite interesting, even in the middle of this climate right now.
And you said, post-pandemic, it's interesting that people can travel, so they are, but maybe that's part of it, that feeling of we were trapped for so long. Yeah. But as you say, when money's tight, whether those bookings will last will be interesting.
It's not sure. It's not clear.
Yeah. Okay, Kevin, let's move on to the front of the Daily Mail. Their main story focuses on electric cars and the number of public charging points that are across the country.
Yeah, and I thought this story was really interesting because it's a classic Daily Mail campaign, and the slogan is "Rethink the 2030 petrol car ban." And what's really interesting is it's underpinned by some research saying that the London Borough of Westminster, I believe I have a resident here with me this morning, has more electric car chargers than 6 major cities in the North and Midlands combined. So Westminster's got 2,196 public charging points, which outnumbers, as one borough alone, all of those in Liverpool, Manchester, Newcastle, Leeds, Sheffield and Birmingham. Now, whilst I'm a huge supporter of electric cars and a cleaner environment, this is actually quite a substance-led campaign by the Mail, and people will be quite surprised. And this will also amplify this thing that people have called range anxiety. You know what that is?
Yes, when you think you're going to get to a charging point. Yeah.
Indeed. So this will really, it's quite an interesting campaign where the Mail says it's calling on ministers to rethink this 2030 target to ban the sale of new petrol and diesel cars by 2030. So interesting.
Well, I guess, yes. I mean, it's a difficult one, isn't it? I mean, it's banning the sale of new cars, isn't it, when it comes to 2030. So it's not like everyone's got to get rid of their petrol and diesel cars they already own.
Sure.
But you do have to have the infrastructure in place to support the electric cars.
Absolutely.
And the government says that it's got a target, but questions, I guess, over whether or not that will be met.
Well, and it's unlikely, because what's the incentive? If you are a petrol station owner and you're supposed to give up some of your forecourt where you make money on the retail store to let people sit there for half an hour to recharge the electric car, that's you're not making money.
But then if you don't have the infrastructure, people are less likely to buy the car.
This is it.
It's chicken and
this it is chicken and this is the challenge, right? Finally, the ministers hope to install 300,000 chargers by the end of the decade. That would mean 110 a day, and the current daily average is 34. Do the maths.
Yeah, there are concerns it's not happening fast enough, because 2030 is not so far away.
No, it's not.
Is it? Okay, let's move on, Alison, to the front page of The Guardian. And this is a report which suggests that lots of vegan products aren't as vegan as they say.
Absolutely. It's really quite worrying. So there was a recent study done by the Chartered Trading Standards Institute. They tested a significant number of vegan sausage rolls and all sorts of products. In total, 90% were found to be unsatisfactory, meaning they failed for traces of dairy or inaccuracies in their labeling and nutritional information.
Upset a lot of people.
Of course, of course. And actually, we're at overall, we have a trust deficit in brands, whether they're political brands, whether they're consumer brands, and this is just adding to people's concerns. What can I trust? You know, I think I'm buying a vegan product, and yet it has these ingredients in it. So if you are a food manufacturer and you failed this test, you should be very worried right now.
Well, yes, and you know all about brand identity and trust in brands. And it's not just that some people make an ethical choice not to go vegan. Other people have allergies, you know,
Well,
have real
indeed.
physical issues. So there are problems on both counts.
Yeah. My eldest is not quite sure at the moment what she's intolerant to. It's either dairy or it's yeast or something, and it's this sort of thing influences people's purchasing decisions, and consumers want to be correct, as Alison says.
Yeah, want to be able to trust what they're eating. Yeah,
absolutely.
Okay, and let's move on to the Telegraph, Kevin, because this is a call that the wealthier should pay more for the BBC. And who's this call from?
Well, it's from the former chairman of the BBC, who, it's always interesting when people say this after they've departed from the job. It would have been a lot more interesting when he had real leverage and influence, and he basically is talking about some form of replacing the licence fee, which is quite unpopular in many places, especially in some lower income households, with some form of increased tax on broadband bills. And it's like an interesting idea, but mate, when you were the chairman, you didn't say anything. So it's all a bit too late, thanks very much.
What about the actual theory behind it? Does that make sense to you?
On the surface,
the wealthier should pay more.
On the surface, it makes sense. The background noise that hasn't been factored in is the fact that, like is going on in the US, the cord cutting. People will just say, well, that's okay, because I can stream Sky News on YouTube, and I can watch other channels through other streaming. I don't have to pay a license fee to get my entertainment content. So people are abandoning the license fee altogether because you can get it in other ways. So the thing that they need to really focus on is raising demand. How do we get people to want to come to the BBC for entertainment and news or other needs? And that's how we keep people in the fold, rather than tinkering around the edges with, ooh, the license fee. No, you need to get demand to make it happen.
Make sure people are watching.
Yeah.
We haven't got very long, just 30 seconds, Alison, just to take us to the eye.
Yeah, so this is a story about a Kent immigration asylum center thinking that by painting over Mickey Mouse and other friendly imagery for children, that somehow this will make people less interested in coming to the UK. I mean, it's quite unbelievable as a superficial, in more ways than one, remedy.
Maybe we can revisit this later. The suggestion is it was under the orders of a Conservative MP, Robert Jenrick. Anyway, we're out of time. Thanks both.
Thank you.